Last night, my cat brought home a human finger. But that's not the worst part. I live in a small town where nothing much happens, a quiet place nestled between rolling hills and dense woods. It's the kind of town where everyone knows each other and doors are rarely locked. I've always found comfort in the stillness here, the predictability. That is, until now. It all started when Whiskers, my mischievous tabby, slipped out through the back door. He's an indoor cat, but every so often he'd make a daring escape into the night. Usually he'd return by morning, meowing loudly for breakfast. This time he came back earlier than usual, dragging something across the kitchen floor. I was half asleep, sipping my first coffee of the day, when I heard the scraping sound. Looking down, I nearly dropped my mug. There it was, a severed human finger, pale and lifeless, with dirt under the jagged nail. A silver ring encircled it, adorned with a small emerald gemstone. My heart pounded in my chest. I recoiled, knocking over the chair behind me. Whiskers sat proudly beside his gruesome find, purring as if he'd brought me the greatest gift. "Whiskers, where'd you get this?" I whispered, as if expecting an answer. I grabbed a dish towel and gingerly picked up the finger, careful not to touch it directly. The flesh was cold, the skin beginning to discolor. This wasn't a prank or some realistic prop, it was real. I dialed 911, hands trembling. As I waited for the authorities, 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. Who did this finger belong to? Was someone hurt or worse? And why did my cat have it? The police arrived quickly, their faces grim as they examined the evidence. Officer Reynolds, a stern man with a salt and pepper mustache, asked me a series of questions. "Did you notice anything unusual last night? Any strangers around?" "No, nothing. I went to bed around 11. Whiskers must have slipped out then." "We'll need to take the finger for analysis," he said, "and we'll have a patrol check the area." After they left, the house felt unnaturally quiet. I couldn't shake the image of the finger from my mind. The ring looked familiar somehow. That evening, I decided to keep Whiskers indoors. He meowed incessantly at the door, scratching to be let out, but I couldn't risk him bringing back any more horrifying souvenirs. As darkness settled, a sense of unease crept over me. Shadows seemed to stretch longer than usual, and every creak of the old house set my nerves on edge. I tried to distract myself with television, but the news was filled with reports of a missing local woman, Emily Turner. My stomach dropped when her photo appeared on the screen. She was wearing a silver ring with an emerald gemstone. The same ring. My mind raced. Emily was a teacher at the local elementary school, beloved by everyone. How could this be happening here? I called Officer Reynolds immediately. "I think the finger belongs to Emily Turner," I blurted out. There was a pause on the line. "What makes you say that?" "The ring. She's wearing it in the photo on the news. It's the same one on the finger Whiskers brought home." "I see. Thank you for the information. We'll look into it." Sleep eluded me that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured Emily reaching out, her hands severed, pleading for help. Around 2 a.m., I heard a faint tapping at the window. My pulse quickened. "Probably just a tree branch," I muttered, but the tapping grew louder, more insistent. Gathering my courage, I approached the window and pulled back the curtain. Nothing. Just darkness and the faint outline of trees swaying in the wind. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement, a shadow darting across the yard. My breath caught in my throat. "Who's there?" I called. Out, my voice barely more than a whisper. Silence. I locked all the doors and windows, double-checking each one. Whiskers watched me from the hallway, his eyes reflecting the dim light. "You're supposed to protect me, you know," I joked nervously. He simply blinked. The next morning, I found muddy footprints by the back door, human footprints. They led from the woods right up to my house and then back again. Panic surged through me. Someone had been here, possibly watching me. I called the police again, and they sent a patrol to survey the area. Officer Reynolds seemed skeptical. "Could be teenagers playing pranks," he said. "With all due respect, I don't think teenagers are leaving severed fingers around," I snapped. He sighed. "We'll keep an eye out. In the meantime, make sure your doors are locked." Not satisfied with their response, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I needed to know where Whiskers had found that finger. Against my better judgment, I waited until he slipped out again that night. Keeping a safe distance, I followed him into the woods, flashlight in hand. The trees loomed overhead, their branches like skeletal fingers against the night sky. Whiskers moved swiftly, darting between bushes and over fallen logs. After about 10 minutes, he stopped at a clearing. In the center stood an old, abandoned well, something I'd never noticed before. He pawed at the ground near the well, meowing softly. As I approached, a foul smell hit me, rotting flesh mixed with damp earth. My stomach churned. "Whiskers, let's go back," I urged. But then, the beam of my flashlight caught something, a glimpse of fabric sticking out from behind the well. I inched closer. It was a torn piece of clothing, stained dark. My hands shook as I pulled it free, a scarf embroidered with the initials E.T. Emily Turner. A snapping twig sounded behind me. I spun around, the flashlight illuminating empty space. "Hello? Is someone there?" I called out. Silence. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming. I backed away slowly, grabbing Whiskers and cradling him to my chest. We needed to leave. Just then, a low voice whispered from the darkness, "You shouldn't be here." I bolted, sprinting through the woods, branches whipping against my face. Whiskers squirmed in my arms, but I held tight. The footsteps behind me grew louder, closer. "Stay away!" I screamed. Breaking through the tree line, I stumbled into my backyard, racing into the house and slamming the door shut. I locked it, every lock, my chest heaving. Moments later, heavy footsteps thudded on the porch. The doorknob rattled violently. "Open up," the voice growled. It was deep, menacing. I grabbed the phone to dial 911, but there was no signal. The pounding on the door intensified. "Leave me alone," I cried. Glass shattered in the living room. Someone was breaking in. Desperate, I fled upstairs, hiding in the closet of my bedroom. Whiskers hissed, his fur bristling. The floorboards creaked as the intruder moved through the house. "You shouldn't have taken it," the voice taunted. Tears streamed down my face. I clutched Whiskers, silently praying for this nightmare to end. The footsteps stopped outside my bedroom door. The handle turned slowly. I held my breath. The door swung open. Through the slats of the closet door, I saw a hulking figure enter, face obscured by a hood, clothes dirty and torn. He moved methodically, searching the room. Then he faced the closet. "I know you're in there." My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. The closet door flew open, and there he was, eyes wild, a twisted grin on his face. Before I could react, Whiskers leapt from my arms, scratching at the man's face. He screamed, stumbling backward. Seizing the moment, I dashed past him and down the stairs. I flung open the front door just as police sirens wailed in the distance. Officer Reynolds and his team screeched to a halt in front of the house. "He's inside," I yelled. They rushed in, weapons drawn. Minutes felt like hours as I waited on the lawn, trembling. Finally they emerged, dragging the man in handcuffs. His face was scratched and bleeding. As they loaded him into the patrol car, our eyes met. There was a chilling emptiness in his gaze. "Who is he?" I asked Officer Reynolds. "Jacob Turner," he replied grimly. "Emily's brother. He's been unstable since she went missing." "Why was he after me?" Reynolds hesitated. "We found evidence in his hideout in the woods, a journal. He believed sacrificing someone would bring his sister back." A cold wave of horror washed over me. "He wanted to kill me?" "It appears so. You were lucky." As the police processed the scene, I sat on the porch, Whiskers curled in my lap. I stroked his fur, grateful for his unexpected bravery. "Good boy," I whispered. But relief was short-lived. A detective approached me. "We found something else you should see." He led me to the well in the woods. Inside, they had discovered several bodies in various states of decay. Among them was Emily Turner. "She was here all along," the detective said softly. I felt sick. The quiet town I thought I knew had been harboring dark secrets. In the days that followed, life tried to return to normal, but the shadows lingered. One evening, as I prepared for bed, I noticed something glinting under the sofa. Reaching down, I pulled out a silver ring with an emerald gemstone, the same one from the severed finger. But the police had taken it as evidence. How was it here? A chill settled over me. Whiskers stared intently from across the room, his eyes reflecting the dim light. "Whiskers, where did you get this?" I murmured. He meowed softly, but it sounded different this time, almost like a whisper. That's when I heard it, a faint voice, echoing in the stillness. "Thank you for finding me." I froze. The voice was unmistakably Emily's. The shadows in the corner of the room seemed to deepen, swirling and coalescing into a vague silhouette. "Now, we can be together," the voice whispered. The lights flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. Whiskers began to purr, the sound echoing unnaturally. My heart raced. I backed toward the door, but it slammed shut. The air grew thick, making it hard to breathe. "Don't be afraid," Emily's voice soothed. "It's better this way." The silhouette moved closer. I could feel a coldness enveloping me, sapping my strength. As consciousness faded, a final thought crossed my mind. Perhaps the worst part wasn't that my cat brought home a human finger. Maybe the worst part was that I ever followed him into the woods.
And there you have it, folks. A tale where the line between the familiar and the macabre blurs with a simple meow at the door. It's a reminder that sometimes the most unsettling mysteries can come from the most unexpected places. Who knows what secrets lurk just beneath the surface of our everyday lives? As we close the book on this chilling chapter, remember, every shadow has a story, and every story is just waiting to be told. What's next? Let's just say the darkness has a few more surprises in store for you. If you dare to explore more twisted tales, hit that subscribe button and join us on this eerie journey. Until next time, stay curious and keep the lights on.